What if the next global war has already been written, not in classified documents, not in secret intelligence briefings, but in an ancient prophecy recorded over 2,500 years ago? In the book of Ezekiel, chapters 38 and 39, we read about a leader called Gog, from the land of Magog. He rises from the far north. He gathers a massive coalition of nations: Persia, Cush, Put, Gomer, Togarmah. It is not a small conflict. It is not a regional dispute. It is a coordinated invasion, and the target is Israel. But this is where it becomes unsettling. Ezekiel describes Israel as a nation restored from ruins, a people gathered from many nations, living securely in their land. For most of history, that description made no sense. Israel did not exist as a nation for nearly 2,000 years, and yet Ezekiel speaks as if he sees a restored state, surrounded by enemies, attacked by a northern alliance. Was this symbolic or literal? Because if it is literal, then we may be watching the stage being set. The prophecy says Gog will come with a vast army like a storm covering the land. The language is military, strategic, geographic, specific. This is not vague poetry. This reads like a battle plan. And yet the most shocking part is not the invasion. It is what happens next. God himself intervenes. Earthquakes, confusion among the armies, fire from heaven, total destruction of the invading forces. This is not just war. This is divine confrontation. But here is the deeper question. Who is Gog? Where is Magog? And why does this prophecy appear twice in the Bible, once in Ezekiel, and again in Revelation? Is it the same war, or two separate events? Before we answer that, we need to understand the man who received this vision. Because Ezekiel was not writing from comfort, he was writing from exile, and exile changes how you see the future, and what he saw next would terrify generations. But to understand the war, we must first understand the exile. Ezekiel was a priest. He was trained to serve in the temple, but he never got the chance. Before he could begin his ministry, Babylon invaded Jerusalem. The city was destroyed, the temple burned, the people were carried into captivity. Ezekiel was among the exiles. Imagine the devastation. The symbol of God's presence, gone. The promises to Abraham, seemingly broken. The nation, scattered. In Babylon, far from home, Ezekiel receives visions unlike anything in Scripture. He sees wheels within wheels, creatures with multiple faces, the glory of God departing the temple. And then, in this moment of national despair, God gives him something unexpected, a prophecy about restoration. But restoration would not come without confrontation. In chapter 38, God tells Ezekiel to set his face against Gog. The language shifts. It becomes precise. Geographical markers are mentioned. The far north. Allied nations are listed by name. Scholars have debated these identities for centuries. Some link Magog to regions north of Israel. Persia clearly refers to modern-day Iran. Others point toward areas corresponding to parts of Russia, Turkey, and surrounding territories. But regardless of exact identifications, the pattern is clear. A northern coalition, a unified alliance, a massive invasion. And the motive? Plunder. The prophecy says they will come to seize spoil and carry off goods. They will believe Israel is vulnerable. Unwalled villages, peaceful people, a false sense of security. But here is the turning point. God declares that he is the one who brings Gog against Israel. Why? So that the nations may know me. This is not just geopolitical, it is theological. The invasion becomes a stage. The battlefield becomes a revelation. And this raises a profound question. Is this war driven by human ambition alone, or is it part of a divine plan to reveal something greater? But the details of the battle itself are even more astonishing. And what happens during the invasion defies military logic. Because the greatest weapon in this war is confusion. And that changes everything. Ezekiel describes the invasion like a storm cloud. Thousands upon thousands of soldiers, horses and weapons, in ancient language representing overwhelming force. They advance confidently. They expect easy victory. But then something strange happens. God sends an earthquake. Mountains collapse, cliffs crumble. The land itself rebels against the invading army. Then comes confusion. The soldiers turn on each other, sword against sword. Panic spreads. Military cohesion disintegrates. What looked unstoppable falls apart from within, and then fire descends. Judgment is swift, total, decisive. The aftermath is haunting. Weapons are burned for 7 years. The dead are buried for 7 months. The scale of destruction is beyond ordinary war, and here is the chilling detail. The purpose is not merely defense, it is revelation. Then the nation shall know that I am the Lord. The war becomes a global sign, but here's where interpretations diverge. Some believe this battle occurs before a 7-year tribulation. Others place it in the middle. Still others connect it to Revelation 20, after the millennium. But there is one detail that keeps scholars awake. Ezekiel describes Israel dwelling securely, not hiding, not under siege, but secure. Does that describe the world now? Or a future political arrangement? Because if such a peace were to happen, even briefly, this prophecy could move from theory to headline. And that brings us to the most debated question of all. Are we seeing alignment today? For centuries, this prophecy seemed distant, impossible. Israel did not exist as a nation. There was no restored homeland. But in 1948, Israel was reborn. In 1967, Jerusalem returned to Jewish control. The regathering Ezekiel described began to look literal. Then alliances began shifting. Nations mentioned in Ezekiel increasingly positioned themselves north of Israel. Military cooperation intensified, tensions rose. Energy routes, regional influence, strategic interests. Is it coincidence or convergence? We must be careful. Speculation can be dangerous. History is filled with failed date-setters. But patterns matter. The prophecy does not demand panic. It demands awareness. It reminds us that history is not random, that nations rise and fall within a larger narrative, and that even war can serve a divine purpose. But perhaps the most important question is not, when will this happen? It is, what does it mean if it does? Because Ezekiel's message was never meant to produce fear. It was meant to produce recognition. Recognition that God remains sovereign over nations, over alliances, over history itself, and that even the most terrifying conflict is not outside his control. But there is one final piece that ties this prophecy to the New Testament, and it changes how we should respond. In Revelation 20, Gog and Magog appear again, but this time after 1,000 years. Another gathering, another rebellion, another swift judgment. Some see these as separate events. Others see symbolic repetition. Either way, the message is clear. Evil gathers. God intervenes. History moves toward restoration. Ezekiel's prophecy does not end in war. It ends in glory returning. In chapter 43, the glory of the Lord returns to the temple. Restoration follows judgment. Hope follows chaos. And this is the heart of the message. The war of Gog and Magog is not just about armies. It is about revelation, about sovereignty, about the certainty that no coalition, no alliance, no global power stands above God. So if this prophecy unfolds in our lifetime, it will not mean the end of hope. It will mean the fulfillment of a promise. And maybe the real question is not whether the war is near, but whether we are ready. If this message helped you see prophecy differently, let me ask you something. Do you believe these events are still future or already unfolding? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more deep biblical investigations like this, exploring prophecy, hidden meanings, and what Scripture may be revealing about our time, make sure to subscribe. Because the next prophecy we explore may be even more surprising, and you won't want to miss it.